It's cold here.
Yeah. And you're Salt Lake, and that's what's weird.
Utah, yeah, I'm a Utah boy. But and we get snow, but it's more fluffy snow. It's very dry, arid there. I don't know how you guys deal with this wind coming along the way. It's like wicked. Outside my hotel room, I was on the 12th floor, and it was looking right at Lake Michigan, and there was like 6 or 8 pigeons on a shelf right by my window. And they were just huddled over, and it felt so bad for them. And once in a while when I was sleeping at night, I heard them peck at the window. Like, I'm sorry, I wish I'd take you in. But it is cold. Anyways, I'm so grateful to be here with each of you. I'm grateful for you and your example, and I'm grateful that you're here with us at 3. I'm going to talk about my background a little bit. I'm going to talk about the science. And I hope by the time that I'm done in a few minutes that you're going to really understand our company and the power that we can provide to you, your family, your loved ones, and all the people on the planet. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Utah. I'm a Utah boy. There's 8 siblings. I have 7 siblings. I'm 2 of 8, and come from a big family. And the reason why we're in Utah is my grandpa was a famous biochemist. He trained at Cal Berkeley. He trained at Wisconsin-Madison. And he grew up in Utah, a little teeny town in southern Utah. So my ancestors, they joined the Mormon Church in 1860 in Switzerland. They came over to Iowa, grabbed a handcart, packed everything that they could fit in that little cart, and pulled it all the way across the plains in 1860 to Salt Lake City. And then they were sent down to St. George to learn how to grow cotton and sorghum and apples. They actually raised apples. They grew apples in Switzerland, and then they actually learned how to grow apples in the desert in Utah. My grandpa would go with my great-grandpa up and down Utah, Arizona, Idaho, selling apples. And so my grandpa thought he was going to be an apple farmer. But he loved experimenting with things. In his back shed, he actually figured out how to make dynamite. A crude version of dynamite with the things that you could buy at the store. And he would go up to the reservoir, and that's how he would fish. With his friends, he would throw sticks of dynamite. And he would bring home a lot of fish. And my great-grandpa was like, how did you get all these fish? He was like, I don't know. But it was one formula. And he was sent to the mines in New Mexico to earn some money back in the day. And he learned how metallurgy and whatnot, right? Back in that day, there was alchemists that were trying to figure out how to change different elements into gold and silver and whatnot. And so he loved chemistry. He sold enough apples that he was able to go to Wisconsin-Madison and get his degree in chemistry. So kind of a rags to riches story. He just loves science. And I love him. He was one of the members that actually figured out the role of vitamin B1, which is also called thiamine. So one of the first projects that he was on when he was a professor is he had a collaborator that was working in Indonesia. And during that time in the 30s and 40s, there was a disease called beriberi that was going on in Indonesia. People were getting sick and they were dying quickly. When they got beriberi disease, they would die in a week or 2. And no one knew why. Doctors were trying to do everything that they could, drugs, different things like that, nutrition, and these people were dying. And my grandpa and a few people actually, they looked at the food chain of what they were eating. And what they found is that recently, there was no beriberi, and then there was beriberi, and they figured out that one of the changes was, in Indonesia, they would always eat the whole rice grain, the germ and everything together. But during the 30s and 40s, Indonesia, like the rest of the world, they were starting to refine their grains. And so what they were doing is they were getting rid of the germ, the whole grain. So when you eat brown rice, right, that's the starch. The white part is the starch, and that brown part of brown rice is the germ, and that contains all the minerals and vitamins and whatnot. So they were getting rid of that, and they were eating just white, starchy rice. And they weren't eating anything else with it. As an impoverished country, especially 80, 90, 100 years ago. And so people were dying because they didn't have enough vitamin B1. So he and colleagues, they actually discovered, they isolated molecules in the rice germ that they called the anti-beriberi factor. because they found that when you gave this mixture to people who had very, very disease, they rapidly recovered. Full recovery in a matter of a few days because of vitamin B1. So he came to, he settled at BYU, Brigham Young University in Utah. That's how I came about. And I love to go to his lab. I love to power around in his lab. I would harass his graduate students and his postdocs. Hey, what you doing? Can I do it? Oh, can I pour that in? Can I do that? Oh, wow. And I'd follow them around. And they were really nice and they were kind. And my grandpa was great. And I loved being with him. When I was 12 or 14, I can't remember. I think I said 14 yesterday. I think I was 12. I'm trying to go back in my mind. I think I was 12, somewhere around there when I remember we were sitting at dinner. I remember what we were having. We were having meatloaf and baked potatoes and green peas. And I remember my dad saying, I have something to tell you all. And I was like, oh no, here goes Dad on one of his lectures, right? You know, my eyes were starting to roll. And he said, Grandpa Googler has cancer. And I didn't really know anything about cancer. That was the first time that anybody close to me had cancer. And in my mind, cancer means death, right? Like it's going to die like the next day. And so I was scared, and I was heartbroken. And I started crying. I got up from the table, threw my fork on the ground, ran downstairs, threw myself on my bed, and I was crying. I was like, my life is over. This is my hero, my idol, and he has cancer and he's going to die tomorrow. That's what I thought. Yeah. I didn't know. I was a naive kid. Thankfully, he lived another 19 years. But for me, when I was thinking about it, thinking that my life was going to change dramatically, I always wanted to be like my grandpa. I always wanted to do things that can improve human health. And I vowed then and there that I would use chemistry, that I would study chemistry to improve health and wellness. So, a lot of people, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 25, they don't know what they want to do when they grow up. I always knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a chemist, like my grandpa. I wanted to discover new things. I wanted to improve human health. And the way I thought that you would do that the best is to go into pharmaceuticals. So that's what I did. I synthesized drugs. And I loved it. It was so cool. As an undergrad, I worked in a lab and I synthesized skin cancer drugs for melanoma. And we actually did a really cool thing where we made these drugs that were inactive. Because one of the problems with chemotherapy is there's no selectivity, right? Chemo just kills every cell. It's indiscriminate. So we developed these drugs that were inactive, and you would give them to the body, and these drugs would go everywhere. But when you put light on the skin, wherever you put light, it would change the inactive molecule into a drug that would kill cancer cells. And that was cool. That went through phase 2 clinical trials, and it failed. Which most drugs do. So I have a friend that works at Merck, and now he works at Pfizer. I was talking with him a couple weeks ago. He has made 300,000 molecules. Guess how many of those have gone on to be a drug? One. Yeah, one gone on to be a drug. But anyways, I love synthesizing drugs. I went to graduate school. I was part of a drug discovery group where basically pharmaceutical companies, if they had a hard time making a drug or they just really wanted that drug to be made right, they would send it to our research group, and we would make it for them. And it was awesome. It was so cool making drugs. Designing, figuring out things, how to make the drug, half-life, pH, pKa's. Probably geek out about that if we can. But anyways, I remember one day, I was asked to synthesize a drug from a pharma company. They were working on HIV. And they were targeting an enzyme called HIV integrase. And this is a really cool enzyme that is how HIV grows and infects the body and cool stuff like that. But anyways, I was asked to make an HIV integrase inhibitor, and they gave me a lot of documentation, like 400-page stack of stuff. This is what you need to make the drug. How big it should be, half-life, et cetera, And I was reading through that, and I remember I was reading through that at lunch. I was eating my peanut butter and honey sandwich, because that's what I love. I was eating my sandwich, so I was reading the dossier and whatnot. And then I stopped dead in my tracks, because in that dossier was a paper, a study, where they actually isolated molecules from a plant. And one of those molecules actually had HIV integrase activity. So it was actually a drug. It was like the drug that I was trying to make. And I remember dropping my sandwich as I was eating. And I was like, what the hell are you doing, Google? I'm like trying to make the world a better place, right? I love my job. I'm being a good soldier. I want to make drugs that can change the world. I'm not naive anymore. It's still a little bit, but I'm not as naive then because I'm like, it's hard to make a drug. And it's hard to get it through. And there's politics involved and whatnot, and you know, in the farm industry, right? Is there politics involved? No. Anyways, so, yeah, not really, right? But I thought to myself, like, what am I doing making a drug when there's a molecule from a plant that already does the same thing? I mentioned last night, but I have to mention it again. You know, one of my favorite things is those pharma drug commercials, right? You know, where people are walking hand in hand on the beach, you know, they're sitting on a swing on their beach house, cozying up, you know, playing croquet, you know, pickleball, and everything's so happy, and it's idyllic, and it's great. They're dancing, and then in the background it says that your spleen might explode, and you know that your stomach might fall out of your body, and you know your skin might melt off your bones. You know, so, and, you know, sorry, I'm being a little over dramatic, but anyways, why is that? And it's for every pharma commercial, right? I mean, you would think that surely some drugs would be okay. They wouldn't like make your spleen fall out, right? Well, the reason is drugs are synthetic. And when we make drugs, we make molecules and connectivities that aren't natural. We put carbon atoms and nitrogen and oxygen atoms in ways that nature doesn't. And that's why the drugs are so powerful, because they bind to a receptor in the body and they don't come off. So in the body, the molecules in the body, they click on and click off. Like Legos, put it together, break it off, put it together, break it off. That's how the body works. A pharmaceutical drug, when you give that to the body, it's basically like putting super glue on the end of that Lego. It's not coming off. And that's why the body reacts so strongly, so violently. That's why you have these side effects. Now, sometimes that's a good thing if you're in this death spiral to pull you out. But most of the time it's not. You don't want something stuck there forever, right? So, that's when I switched my career. And I focused on discovering molecules from plants from all around the world and food and putting them in formulations that could transform human health. So rather than take a pharmaceutical drug, which could be an okay thing to do, but that's a really strong reactive wellness measure, right? That's like the last step. But the irony is that in the world that we live in today, in developed countries, that's usually the first step. When it should be the last, but it's the first. And we've kind of grown up that way, you know, give me a pill, right? Can I just take a pill, you know? Can you just eat something, right? So what we do here at 3 is we design proactive wellness products. And some of the background of our products are listed in the Prescriber's Digital Reference, the PDR. That's the #1 medical database in the world. So when you go and you see a doctor, and I have 3 daughters, they're 19, no, how old are they? 17, 20, and 23. One of them's almost 17, 20, and 23.
Birthdays,
yeah, you know, it happens. But I remember taking my daughters, you know, when they had an ear infection or something to the doctor, and they were really grumpy, and they were angry, and I just wanted something to give to them for them to feel better, right? And the doctor would come in, the nurse would come in too, they'd take their vital signs and whatnot, take their temperature, you know, stick your tongue out, blah, 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 you know. And then the doctor would be like, okay, this is good, and the doctor would leave, right? While my kid is crying. I'm like, where are you going? And they'd be gone for like 10, 15 minutes. And then they'd come back. But they leave, you know, if I brought my kid in at 9 a.m. or 12 or 2 or 4, they'd always leave before they came back in. I'm like, where are you going? Like, what are you doing? Let's get this going. Do you always have to use the bathroom? Do you like eat lunch whenever I come? Who's here? Let's go eat lunch, you know? Or fantasy football or something? Like, what's going on? You know, what they're doing when they leave is they're looking at databases like this. They're saying, okay, she has a fever, there's this and this, her medical history is this and this and this, we think it's this or that, and so we're going to prescribe the manner of treatment, right? We're going to give her this, we're going to do that, and they look at things like the PDR to figure out how to do that. So there's anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 supplement companies in the United States. okay? Probably around 5, a conservative estimate is 5,000. When you take the entire world, it's more like 14 to 20,000 something. It's a lot of companies. But the thing is, there's only about 200 contract manufacturers in the United States. Those 150 or 200 make all of the supplements for everybody. So there's 5,000 supplement companies in the United States. There's only about 15 companies that have products in the PDR. And we have 8 products in the PDR. We have about the most products in the PDR of any company. Now, a lot of people say, well, you can just buy away into the PDR. Just buy away, right? All I have to do is pay money. Okay, well, if we took that logic of all you have to do is pay money to get into the PDR, if there's 5,000 supplement companies in the country, if you just had to pay money, how many would be in the PDR? 5,000. Who would pay money, right? Come on, good grief. Let's just pay money to get into the PDR. Well, you can't pay money to get into the PDR because you have to have science. You have to have something that's unique, that's novel, that's powerful, new technology, new ways of doing things. Things that can help medical doctors as they want to help their patients. So isn't it cool that when a doctor goes into the PDR to figure out if someone has chronic inflammation, they want to know how to help them, and they look at different options, isn't it cool that Revive is in there?
Yeah.
If someone is worried, if a doctor is working with someone for immune health, and they really want to help bolster their immune system, isn't it cool that Immune is in there? Isn't that cool? Someone who has problems with heavy metal toxicity, Purify is in there. And isn't it cool, even kind of crazy, that if someone is having a hard time sleeping and they go to the PDR, guess what shows up? Our Visage Super Serum is in there
that's crazy.
to help us sleep. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
But our products are in the PDR, that's a big deal. Our products are manufactured in the United States, CGMP compliant facilities, FDA compliant facilities. We use all ingredients that are recognized by the FDA as safe. We don't use anything crazy or fringe or novel or anything like that that could get people sick. And this is a big deal. Our products are formulated by us in our labs in the United States. Most supplement companies, they don't make their formulas at all. When they do product development, you know what they do? They pick up the phone and they call one of these 200 contract manufacturers. You know, at Vertex Nutraceuticals. And they say, hey, John, at Vertex Nutraceuticals, we want to launch a new product. Keto right now. Ketones is really cool. We want a ketone product. Or, peptides. Yeah, oh yeah, everybody's on this peptide. We want one of those. We want one of them there peptide products. And John at Vertex Nutraceuticals, no problem, Mr. Googler. We can give you one of those. And so in 2 weeks, they send me samples of something. Okay? And we try them. And we're like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And then we launch it. Is that product development?
No.
Is that novel? At that contract manufacturer, when they give me a peptide product, do they only give that to me? No. You remember that they actually manufacture for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 other supplement companies. So if they give something to me, how many other companies are they giving it to? 100, 200, 300. All you have to do, when you look at Amazon, they have a formula, and type in that formula, and then just Google it, and you'll see 10, 12, 20, 30 other companies selling exactly the same thing. Or pretty similar. Like if I'm the banana flour company, what they'll do is I'll say, and mix in 2 milligrams of banana flour into our product. And voila, now it's different, and we're cool, and we're unique, right? We don't do that. We formulate everything from scratch. Everything a pharmaceutical company does, everything medicinal chemists do when they synthesize drugs, that's what we do here at 3. And that's why our products work. And we have clinical studies. Another little known secret is when companies say that we have a clinical study on our formula, they really don't. But they say they do, and this is why they say they do. So let's say that resveratrol is a great ingredient. We have 200 milligrams in our Eternal product. Let's say there's a clinical study that has come out, and there is, showing that 200 milligrams of resveratrol can reduce oxidative stress and help to support healthy aging. Great. And that's why Trinell helps us support healthy aging, because it has 200 milligrams of resveratrol. Well, a lot of companies, they have 8 milligrams, or 30 milligrams of resveratrol, or 76 milligrams of resveratrol, whatever it is. And then they say, yeah, we have a clinical study on our product, because they're drafting off of that paper. Well, if you only have 76 milligrams of resveratrol and the clinical study was done on 200, is that valid?
No.
It's not, but they say it is. And the other thing is, if I have 70 milligrams of resveratrol, 200 is the amount that's effective, and I have 14 other ingredients in my formula, is my formula really close? Does it resemble that clinical study in any way, shape, or form? It doesn't at all. So companies say they have clinical studies, but they don't really. Now, do you need to have clinical studies to sell a nutritional supplement?
No.
No way. No way. Pharmaceutical drugs, do you need to have clinical studies to market that drug? You do, and it needs to be FDA approved. In the supplement company, you don't. And actually, supplement companies don't want clinical studies. When you say, where's the clinical studies? They shudder. Oh, man. They're like, squirrel! You know, they don't want to run clinical studies. I've consulted for supplement companies before. And I remember I was consulting with a company, I told them they needed to run this and this clinical study. I said, if you did this would make your company a lot more powerful, and it would give you an advantage in the industry. And they're like, okay. I'm like, you should do that. A couple of months go by, we have a board meeting, I'm like, we should do that. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, okay, well, a few more months go by, like, are you gonna do that? They're like, beautiful day here. So anyways, I was sitting with a CEO for dinner, and he was chairman of the board as well. And he's like, Dan, I know you've been talking about these clinical studies. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, we don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, why? He's like, I don't think it's going to work. He's like, I don't think our results are going to be good. Isn't that crazy? They just want to sell the product, make money. Clinical studies are expensive. Clinical studies that we've run here at 3 range anywhere from $30,000 to $300,000. Clinical studies can run millions of dollars. Now, does it make sense? You know, if you're a supplement company, you don't need to run clinical studies, and you're a business person, here, I'm just going to write a check for $300,000, because that's great. No, you want to save that money. Companies don't really want to know if their products work or not. We have 3 clinical studies and more on the way. We have a 4th that we're working on right now, and hopefully we can talk about it in a little bit here. But we have 3 clinical studies, and these are clinical studies on the entire formula. Everything there in that product. All the ingredients, the delivery systems, whatnot, that's what this clinical study is about. We have clinical studies showing that our products regulate genes. We have clinical studies showing that our products are anywhere from 3 to 9.5 times more absorbable than any other nutritional supplement. We have clinical studies talking about superoxide. That's a cool word, superoxide, right? Doesn't that just make you feel smart and happy when you say that? Superoxide. Anyways. And we have an amazing board. Who's met members of our board? Have you met any of them? They're incredible. We have a powerful board. The secret to a powerful company is to have a powerful board. Just go and look who's on the board of Apple, Google, Tesla. You look at these people, these are heavy hitters. These are powerful people. They're experts in the industry. They can help Google and Apple and these other companies pivot and find the way to success. That's what the board does. We have amazing medical doctors. They've trained at Dr. Rome, he trained at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Schneider trained at the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins. Dr. Leak, Mayo Clinic. Dr. Green, University of Michigan, University of Washington. These are some of the, and I can go down the road, these are some of the best trained people on the planet. Professor Saskia, she is a natural products chemist. She's a professor at Osaka, Japan. The very first woman in Osaka University to ever get tenure. Wow. The Japanese men are afraid of her. They're trying to figure out, you know, we have this amazing person, and she's disrupting the good old boy fraternity there in Japan. And she's loving it, and she's eating it up. And she's an amazing scientist, and she's on our board. They help us to be better. We meet once a month, and they're powerful. Now, on a board in downtown Chicago last night, I just threw out the question, how much do you usually pay members of a board? And someone said $200,000 a year. And that's right. On a board of a company, you usually pay people, a smaller company, it's maybe like $30,000. At a bigger company, it's $200,000. At big companies, it's like $1 million a year you pay these people. Because they give good advice, good input. How much do we pay these people on our board? Zero. What? Yeah, we say you're welcome to come to some of our reward trips that we have with our brand ambassadors, hang out with them, and we'll pay for you to do that. But we're not paying you otherwise. Ouch. Are we like mean? This is kind of harsh. But actually our chair, he says, I don't want to be paid. And I don't think any of these people should be paid. That's what he says. Really? Wow. You're mean. I'm just kidding. Anyways, the reason why we don't pay them, and they don't want to be paid, is they love our mission. They love what we're doing. They love our science, our technology, our alternate to pharmaceuticals, our proactive wellness approach. They're delighted to be with us, and we're so grateful for them, and they're fantastic. Now let's talk about our products real quick. Vitality. This is our multivitamin product. Most multivitamins don't work. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Most multivitamins don't work.
Yes.
Multivitamins were discovered in the 1920s in Bern, Switzerland, when scientists figured out that they could actually isolate small amounts of zinc and magnesium, and they could put them in gelatin capsules. They'd make the gelatin in the lab, like Jell-O. They would melt it down and whatnot. They would pour some in a mold, and they'd throw in their white powder, then they'd put another mold on top. And those were the first multivitamins that they made. They'd grind them up into little capsules and whatnot. And that's cool. But there's a few issues with that. Just think about that. If you're taking zinc from nature and you're putting it in a white powder and you're crushing it and you're mixing it with gelatin and stuff like that, is that going to be really absorbable? No, when you're taking it from its unnatural state and then you're expecting it to just naturally dissolve back into the body, is that going to work? No, not at all. So one of the problems is they're not absorbable. And when you take a multivitamin, and then 30 minutes later, when you use a restroom, you see that not a lot of that has absorbed in the body, right? Because of the bright yellow color of your urine, which is the color of B vitamins. So, a multivitamin, though, is a big deal. Because we're starving in the world today. Our bellies are full, but we're getting no medicinal molecules. None, really. Right? You think about what we usually eat. I was at dinner with some people last night, and I really love pecan pie. Right? And in Texas, they say pecan pie, right? That's my favorite. I love pecan pie. Oh, I just want to take a big piece and just shove it in my mouth, right? When you eat a piece of pecan pie, my in-laws, they actually have a tradition on Thanksgiving. They eat pie for breakfast. Because, yeah, they eat pie for breakfast. It's a big thing. When you eat a piece of pecan pie for breakfast, how many medicinal molecules are you getting in that pie? Yeah, 0. And I love a hamburger. That's like one of my favorite go-to foods is a hamburger. And as delicious as a hamburger is, how many medicinal molecules are in the hamburger? I mean, okay, you have the tomato, which is usually really thin, right? You have the wilty little piece of lettuce on there, right? You have some onions, so that, okay, there's maybe a little bit. But as far as like medicinal molecules, there's not really a lot there. And then, and then dinner time, pizza, frozen lasagna, dinner rolls. You think of these places, these foods that we eat, TV dinners, instant potatoes. Are there a lot of medicinal molecules in those types of foods I just thrown out there? No, right? And then, so you've gone the entire day, and then you get the kids to bed, and you're just tired. You want to binge watch your favorite TV show, and you sit down and you grab out your ice cream. Your favorite brand. You know what brand that is. You know what brand that is. And you're just slamming that, And it's so great. How many medicinal molecules are in that ice cream? 0. So you've gone an entire day eating nothing medicinal. Congratulations. Congratulations to me. Yes, you've done that, Dan. Yeah, good job. You know, how often do we do that? You know, we laugh at these sorts of scenarios, but more often than not, in the United States and in developed countries around the world, this is what we do day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. So the body is not getting medicinal molecules that it needs, and that's why human health is suffering. So Vitality has the vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes, the probiotics, the prebiotics, the chlorophyll, the postbiotics. Everything the body needs for proper function is in there. And we have an omega-3 capsule that mimics, just like you're eating a fresh ahi tuna or salmon fillet. And then we have Eternel. This is our anti-aging wonder, our purple pouch, that makes part of our Simple 6 products. 200 milligrams of resveratrol, CoQ10, glutathione. Who's heard of glutathione? I mean, glutathione's hot right now, right? You can't watch Instagram or TikTok without going, yeah, I'm going to my glutathione drip place. Yeah, look at this, glutathione drip. It's so great, bro. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, glutathione is huge right now. These glutathione, sorry, that was maybe disrespectful, I'm sorry. But these glutathione places, it's a big deal. Newsflash though, glutathione hates water. Sorry, it does. So if you put glutathione in water and saline solution, none of that's getting into the cell at all. Absorption's a big deal. You aren't what you eat, you are what you what? Absorb. You are what you absorb. And these molecules in plants, they don't absorb well in the body because the body's made of water. 60 to 85% water, depending on the part of the body. So that's a problem. And it makes sense, right? When it rains or it's snowing right now, you don't see the plants dissolving or melting away or anything like that, right? It's because these molecules, they hate water. They're not going to become one with water. And so these molecules that we pull from these plants, these beautiful molecules, they don't get into the cell on their own. That's why we have 12 different cellular absorption technologies. And these technologies make sure that all the molecules, big and small, ugly or beautiful, I think all molecules are beautiful, but anyways, all the molecules get into the cell. So that's our Eternel product. Collagen. This is our collagen product. Collagen's huge, right? That's why I said collagen's everywhere. You can find it at Costco, Sam's, Walmart, 7-Eleven, you know, wherever.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And everybody's selling collagen because they're trying to get into the collagen craze. Makes sense. Collagen's important. It's one of the most abundant proteins in the body, and it's vital for proper function. But not the collagen molecule itself. The key is what's called collagen peptides. And not just any collagen peptide. There's this really cool beta-hydroxy proline, this hip-pro dimer. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Yes. This hip-pro dimer is the key for collagen signaling, for turning collagen production back on in the body. The problem with collagen supplements today, collagen's a huge molecule. It's like trying to drive a semi through the eye of a needle. It's not going to happen. You need to break it down. So we hydrolyze and micronize our collagen. Beef collagen, it's not going to do it. Chicken collagen, it's not going to do it. You need marine collagen. That's because there's over 18 different types of collagen. Collagen for the skin, type 1 and type 3. Where is type 1 and type 3 collagen found in nature? Fish. So you need marine collagen. Anybody else on any other type of collagen, it's not working. If you're trying to get skin health, it's not doing it for you. So we take this collagen, we break it down into peptides. Yes, peptides. Different types of collagen peptides that actually turn collagen production back on in the body. That's why this product is so powerful. As we age, the machinery in the body that produces collagen breaks down and it stops working. So we produce less and less collagen. That's why when we're 20, our skin's beautiful. I look at my daughters, I'm like, man, your skin's beautiful, right? And then, 25, 30, I wake up one morning 30 and get kind of a wrinkle here, 40, like, and that's because the body's producing less and less collagen. It's like pulling tent poles out of the tent. Starts to sag because it's not making enough collagen. This product teaches the body how to make collagen again. Any other product do that on the market? None. Unique to us. Why? Patented trademark technology. Revive. This is our natural Tylenol or ibuprofen. Have you been following all the Tylenol stuff? You know? Yeah, isn't that crazy? About potential things, about molecules that can cause health issues. It's kind of crazy. No matter what side you're on there's a lot to unpack. We're not doing that tonight. The point, though, is acetaminophen is a synthetic molecule. And back to what I was saying before, a synthetic molecule is going to have side effects. It just is, because the connectivity is different. Now, the degree of side effects can be different, but we want natural molecules. We want molecules that the body knows how to immediately break down and use for its benefit. And that's what this does. Natural anti-inflammatory. This is an immune health product. The immune system, so vital, so powerful for the body. 80% of your immune system is in your gut. Did you know that? 80% of the immune cells are in your gut. We want to take care of the gut microbiome. We have a really unique, powerful technology that supports health of all aspects of the immune system, including the gut microbiome. And then we have our detox product. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the things we touch, even the receipts that we grab at the store. Yes. I was telling that last night. Have you heard of PFASs? Perfluoroalkyl substances. They're known as forever chemicals. Have you heard of forever chemicals? People talking about it in the news. When you touch a receipt on thermally printed paper, you're getting forever chemicals on your fingers. And those can actually absorb through the skin. It's a big deal. You know, plastic, Teflon, different things like that. So the bottom line is the body's constantly getting toxin load. I read a paper the other day where they were looking at synthetic molecules. This paper came out about 8 years ago, but I was reminded of it, and I was reading it, that they were looking at toxic molecules in women who were pregnant and in an unborn child. And what they found is that in the unborn child, at about 38 weeks gestation, they actually drew some blood and some of the fluid, and they looked for synthetic molecules, and they found that that baby had, on average, 600 different synthetic molecules were in that child at 38 weeks, before it was even born. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
It's crazy. We need to detoxify the body, and that's what this product does better than anything else on the planet. And we have a few other things. So that's our simple 6. Skincare. Who likes skincare? Who wants to look good? Yeah. It's a big deal. And it's looking good is important. That's super important. But just as important is taking care of the skin, because the skin is the largest organ of the body and it's prone to being damaged. Poor diet, lack of sleep, lack of exercise, stress, anxiety, pollution can cause the skin to become dull, to become lifeless, increasing wrinkles, hyperpigmentation, less elasticity, and it's a problem. So what this product does, and it's 4 of them there, I don't know if you can see, we have a line here of 4 products that actually help to reduce wrinkles, reduce hyperpigmentation, bring back that skin glow, the dewy, glowy look that skin should have, healthy skin should have. That's what this does. And by the way, it's the world's first neurocosmetic that supports helping the skin gain access. So when you put this on your skin, it sends a signal to the brain that produces neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin. So isn't that cool? There's clinical studies that have been done that when I look good, and my skin is good, and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, wow, you look good. That actually sends a signal to the body. It starts chemistry, signal transduction cascades that actually tell the skin, hey, you need to produce these, you need to produce collagen, you need to produce elastin, you need to produce these molecules for skin health. Isn't that cool? When I just think that I'm looking good, that chemistry happens. Well, what we've done is we've supercharged that because we're actually planting that signal already with our neurocosmetic technology. And does anybody else have this technology? No. Why? We're the ones that discovered it. We discovered a molecule from a plant in Death Valley and a molecule from a plant up in northern Japan in the Akita prefecture that have this neurocosmetic technology. No one else can use it. Why? Patent. We patented it.
Nice.
Okay. And kinetic. Clean caffeine, 200 milligrams of clean caffeine without the crash. Lots of energy drinks are garbage. I'm sorry to say, they're garbage. Taurine, there was a paper that just came out a few months ago showing that taurine can increase risk of leukemia. Energy drinks are not formulated with your health in mind. They're dirty, they're nasty, they're just designed to give you this crazy rush, and then they throw you off a cliff physiologically. That's what they do. I'm sorry, but that's what they do. This was designed to give you healthy, prolonged, natural, sustained energy throughout the entire day and balance your circadian rhythm, so when it's time to go to sleep, you sleep like a baby. Does this work for you?
Yes.
How I describe it, does it work for you? Okay. So anyways, just close up here.
Whoa.
Wow.
Hello.
Yes, I timed it. To close out today, I should just walk out the stage now. Isn't that what I do? To close out today, I've talked a lot and I've talked fast. But I want you to understand that if you want to join a company that has novel solutions for your health, that can change your life, both physiologically and financially, this is the absolute best place to be. Because we have power, we have patents, we have absorption, we have novelty, and we have amazing business leaders like Holly, grateful for her, Kimberly, Lily, Tony, and God. We have great leaders that can help you to make a sizable income out of this so that you can support your life and the lives of your family.
And we have results.
Thank you.